Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. Now, if you're new here, my name is Rigel, and in this corner of the internet, I make design and lifestyle related videos. Now, if any of those topics interest you, consider subscribing and hit that bell for notifications. Also, if you end up liking this video, make sure to give this video a thumbs up so then more people can see it and it can help them out and we can grow our little community. Now, before we get into this video, I do want to kind of apologize for my lighting. I don't know if you've seen my other videos before, but if you have, you probably have noticed that, the lighting's a little bit more dim. So I did want to apologize that upfront because unfortunately the ring light that I purchased for this channel, it died out on me and it's unfortunate, but you know what they say, the show must go on. So I'm continuing to do that with or without good lighting. However, if you do want to help me out and support this channel, I will greatly appreciate it. I actually have a Ko-Fi account. The link is in the description box below. It's just a one-time payment, so, obviously I said it helps me out with this channel with just equipment and all that stuff, but also my other platforms, so I can just continue creating content. Okay, so with that little hiccup out of the way, we can actually get into this video. So this is a little bit different than my redesigned videos that I have a series on. I will put a card up there, by the way, if you are interested in those. If you don't know about it, I basically just take popular brands and I redesign their logo. But no, this video is going to be part of my Designing from Scratch series instead. Because I haven't done one in such a while. I think it's been like a year since I've actually done this. So I was like, you know what? I'm kind of like lacking in that department of my series and different types of content I put in my channel. So why don't I go back to it, and dust it off the bookshelf and bring it back to life. So I've basically done a logo from scratch before, and I've also created an entire skincare brand from scratch. So this video is going to be another different thing, but still part of the same, designing a t-shirt from scratch. But not designing any t-shirt from scratch. No, it's actually a band t-shirt, and specifically, it's kind of obvious if you recognize this framed, photograph. It's Young the Giant. I hope you know this band because this is my beloved and favorite indie alternative band. I have been following them ever since I came across them in high school. And gosh, when I tell you that I have listened to their songs on repeat over and over again, it is just an understatement because while I was in school, in high school, and in college, all through that, they were basically just like my go-to band all the time. I got to see them thankfully, and I just feel so grateful that I was able to, but I got to see them in person in concert a few times when they've been in my area, and let me tell you, every single time I go to one of their concerts, it is just crazy. It's almost I don't know, it's a different experience and it just makes you be in the moment and just feel the music. I don't know, it's like you've got to go to a music concert of your favorite band to really understand what I'm talking about. But yeah, I have just not done anything to really show my appreciation for them, I guess, through the years of helping me through high school and college and even, post-grad and all that stuff. Any time that I am putting my playlist on shuffle and it happens to land on one of Young the Giant's songs, I do not hit the skip button. I never do. I will hit the skip button for anyone else except them. So if that tells you something, then I hope it does. But yeah, okay, so in college I did do a design project on them basing off a typography, I guess, I forgot what they called it. It was some type of card, I think almost like a rack card in a way, but not really. But anyways, it was a typography type of I guess poster design almost, in a way, if I can explain it close enough. I basically listened to a certain song from Young the Giant and I tried to emulate that in my designs, as well as the flow of which I wanted the fonts to go, and kind of show the personality of the song into, right? So in this way, I'm kind of taking the same approach from it into this t-shirt design, except this way it's going to be a little different because I'm gonna make it more challenging for myself. Young the Giant has been around for a very long time. It's been around for over a decade, and they've made a good amount of music. So I'm actually trying to compile and modge-podging like all of their albums that they've had out thus far since the beginning, and just trying to culminate it into one band t-shirt design. So yeah, it's gonna be a little tough to tackle because Young the Giant, you know, just as anyone, they've kind of changed in the style of music throughout the years, but throughout all of that, they still kind of have undertones of having a consistency in their style and their branding. So, you know, at least there is that to kind of help me out. So after we kind of finish making up the design that I want to use for the t-shirt, I actually want to put it into a mock-up because we are designing from scratch. So then that way you kind of see a better picture of, you know, what I'm trying to go for, as well as kind of seeing it in the outside real world aspect, just so you can kind of have a better idea of how the design would look like. So yeah, I'm pretty excited for this prompt that I've given myself, and I hope you are pretty pumped too, because we are going to get started. Before I jump right into designing, I want to give a brief background on Young the Giant in case you may not have heard of them. Young the Giant is an alternative/indie pop and rock band, but listening through their albums, I'd say their genres are eclectic, but harmonize together and evolves alongside with the band. They have been around for 12 years since starting in 2010. Before that though, they were actually known as the Jakes back in 2004. Not all of the original members from the Jakes are in Young the Giant, but the members from 2008 are still the ones from today. Now there are 5 members: Samir, Jacob, Eric, Payam, and Francois. There's currently 4 albums out, which I will list in chronological order: Young the Giant, Mind Over Matter, Home of the Strange, and Mirror Master. And yes, I encourage you to give it a listen if you're curious about their sound. Now, Young the Giant was formed in Irvine, California, so as you can see, looking through Pinterest for inspiration, I did want to not only look into like design styles and whatnot, but I also wanted to kind of hark back to their roots. So I went to look at beach inspo, specifically in the California shore, and even more narrowing it down to actually Irvine, California. I wanted to kind of look at the different landscapes, get a feel for the colors, I guess, also too, for the beach. Just because I am nowhere near the coastline currently, so just having that visualization kind of has it fresh in my mind as kind of a reference. Also, what I did for background information for forming these t-shirt designs, because I wanted it to be more challenging, I decided not to look at any of Young the Giant's past works, like on their merch or anything like that. I basically just went off of really the core essence and the feel that I have whenever I listen to their music. So I did use their music as this inspiration, listening to it in the background during this entire time. And then some of my designs, the closest thing for them to influence me was, you know, apart from the music of course, was just my memory of kind of remembering how the brand of this band looks, and what I can kind of remember of how their album art also looks. So in some of their designs that I can remember, they kind of had this desert feel. So I wanted to also incorporate that look into my landscape references other than just beach. And then in terms of art styles, while listening through their music, I just really had 2 things that really stuck out to me. One was that in their newer albums, it kind of seemed, it felt at least a little bit more psychedelic to me. And with a psychedelic design or word, it also reminds me more of the art movement of surrealism. So I tried to look through things like that, and then not only did I think about the surrealist movement, but just Knowing Young the Giant in general, they are bold and they like to talk about their stories and they're not afraid to talk about them. And while being at their concerts before, alongside with their boldness, they also show that in their colors. So I wanted to kind of strategically pick bolder colors for this design. And I also wanted to kind of hark back to something a little bit almost on the opposite side of surrealism and just kind of get blocks of color from the Bauhaus art movement, just because I feel like that really has a bold and in-your-face design that I want to capture. So I just kind of want to try and blend all of these feelings and ideas together. And you know, along with that too, I think those designs really remind me, especially of the psychedelicness. It also reminds me of the 70s, so I try to also incorporate that into my color palette. So let's talk a little bit more about the two influential art movements that I want to incorporate in this t-shirt design. So as I said, I want to incorporate surrealism and Bauhaus, but what are the key takeaways? What are the backgrounds of these two art movements, in case you might have not known about them? Now, surrealists sought to channel the unconscious as a means to unlock the power of the imagination, and they believe that you could pretty much find this out and about in everyday life. Now, some of the characteristics of this movement are dreamlike visuals, the use of symbolism, and collage images. There was also a spirit of spontaneity, visual puns, and iconography. And then pretty much just about on the opposite side of the spectrum, we have Bauhaus. Now, the Bauhaus was a German art school that combined crafts and fine arts that became famous for its approach to design, which attempted to unify the principles of mass production with individual artistic vision and strove to combine aesthetics with everyday function. Now, the Bauhaus style tends to feature simple geometric functional shapes like rectangles and spheres. They were more about simplicity with no embellishments or ornamentation, to be more direct and streamlined. Now, other characteristics are simple yet bold color schemes, holistic design, balanced asymmetry, avant-garde collages, and bold typography. I want to elaborate more on how these art movements are going to be influential in my designs, but as I can see, I'm starting to run out of time in this little segment, so I'm just gonna let past sketch me kind of talk a little bit more about these sketches here that you've seen me working on, and then when I get into the computer section, I'm going to kind of explain myself a little bit further about these two art movements and how it connects with Young the Giant and how I'm going to use this into my t-shirt designs. Okay, so let's talk about the ones that I've starred. Clearly, I've starred quite a good amount on here because I surprisingly like a lot of the designs that I came up with, trying to Mod Podge all of these words and all of these styles together. I feel like these two really emulate what I'm trying to go for like kind of this psychedelic Bauhaus, almost surrealist format of a layout of arrangement of these geometric elements that I have, and I am thinking of using a lot of different colors within this, and I think all of these shapes give a lot of color opportunities in here. Now this one, there are 5 members in the team, well, 5 members in the band, should I say more. So this is why I have 5 color blocks here in the middle. I'm not too sure if I actually like it. This was the initial idea that I was going for. So I want Young the Giant to wrap around this, and I kind of maybe want to play with that. I'm not too sure because I really like these two on the front side. And then I guess if I have more time on it, I'm gonna play a little bit more around with this. And then also, I put have words keep wrapping with a question mark, because maybe what if I just have the band name and just go in a rectangle of just having it repeat over and over again, kind of like turn it into its own pattern. And then on the back side, I have these two that I really like. This is kind of like a slight abstraction to the mix between the whole beach and desert landscape that I seem to think of whenever I think of Young the Giant. And I just kind of have it almost in a Polaroid picture format. I was trying to go for as if to capture a landscape that they could have been performing in. And then this one, these little lines are also supposed to kind of match the stone within the canyons. And I also tried to integrate the 5 element, you know, the number 5 element with all of the band members. And I just played around with the type to kind of match the flow of how the shape is. So then I also added just a little bit of some elements that I might put in there for graphic stuff, and then I just kind of did varying type faces just to see like what would look best with the ideas that I have in mind. This one I'm not too sure about. I just put a question mark because like maybe I'll like it, maybe I don't, but it doesn't seem as strong as the what is it, the 4 to 5? Yeah, 4 to 5 things that I have on here. So obviously there's actually a lot to play with, and a lot of variety actually too. So I think maybe I should just prioritize from the one I like the most to the least, from the ones I starred, and like only go down the line should I just not like the initial idea, you know? But it's kind of hard to narrow this down because there are a lot of options. They all seem cohesive and seems to fit with what we're trying to go for, which I didn't think that would happen, but this is one of these rare instances where it is. So if I do have a little too much fun with it, or if I have more time, there might be variations for mock-up t-shirts. It might just not be one design, it might actually be multiple, so we shall see. Let us go. Hi again, I'm back. So let's talk about the Surrealist and the Bauhaus movement again, and how I want to incorporate those two styles a little bit more deeply into my designs for Young the Giant. So that being said, despite them being on two sides of the opposite spectrum, I think that really kind of signifies what Young the Giant's music is all about, because it's always evolving, and I think having that wide range for them allows them to have that freedom of having this type of design. Now with the surrealism aspect, I wanted to incorporate is just like the imagination and the dreamlike visuals that I feel is within Young the Giant. And I'm hoping to kind of really incorporate the collage images, because that's also found in the Bauhaus style, and then possibly the iconography. And with surrealism kind of reminding me of psychedelicness, I also want to kind of use a certain wavy line, I guess I can say, that's also kind of seen in landscape design. And then with the Bauhaus design, there's a lot of things going for it that also shows the personality of Young the Giant. So that is really seen into the bold yet simple color schemes. You know, we want to keep the color schemes a bit simple just because we don't want to put too much into it, because then it just looks too loud in not a good way to the eye. And I also just want to blend in that bold typography that comes with the bold color scheme of the Bauhaus movement while being balanced all together. And I think having that juxtaposition of a more flowy movement from the surrealist movement and then having a more structured geometric shape from the Bauhaus, combining that together, I think achieves both of what the looks are trying to go for. Now, coming up with the designs, obviously trying to Mod Podge all of those elements together. We don't want it to just overpower and be so distracting to the eye that looking at it is just going to be unappealing. So I had to really reel back on trying to get everything together but still maintaining the aesthetic visual appeal while also having the core energy and brand of what Young the Giant is. You know, trying to blend in iconography and having a more surrealist, organic form while also maintaining the bold, geometric, simple, and clean elements of the Bauhaus. It was a lot to tackle. And you know, I really wanted to push that collage feeling, and merging those two art movements together seemed to really kind of emulate that, because there is collage in both the surrealist and the Bauhaus movement. And the funny thing is that trying to put the wavy line in, the geometric shapes in, kind of putting some iconography but more in the way that is more abstract, because Young the Giant does have more of an abstracted element to it just because they are always evolving. And then adding that layer of typography, I mean, that is a culmination in of itself of having collage in there. So I think I wanted to go and stay with that direction as I kept designing. So what do I exactly mean by simple, as to why I want to add simple elements into Young the Giant's design, even though they aren't simple people? I think what I'm trying to go for is more of the word grounded, because even though Young the Giant has gotten a lot of fame over the past 12 years, they still stay very humble and grounded into the roots of where they started from. And when you meet them, they don't even act like there's any fame to them. Like, if you just saw them walking across the street or whatever, or just having a conversation with them briefly, you would have never known that these people were famous if you didn't know prior. And so I just wanted to keep some of that in there. And then just from a design standpoint, as I said, sometimes simple is better, you know, like less is more. I guess that kind of also goes with the whole minimalist feel, while still having that boldness, and combining those two art movements. Like I said, being able to have all of these elements in together, keeping it simple, kind of makes it easier to play around with in all of the designs that I have. Now, moving forward from that, in part of my designs, I wanted the main shape to be kind of like a portrait poster layout. And the reason being is because I felt like that was the best way to convey the t-shirt design and have the most space onto a t-shirt. Also, this can easily translate into an actual poster design, and I wanted to have that flexibility within that, especially since having typography coexist with the illustration for the t-shirt, just blending those two together, that type of design can also easily translate into a poster design. And I mean, I feel like it would be cool having this design not only on a t-shirt but also having it framed inside of a room space. Now, the main designs that I've decided to stick with are basically the 3 designs that I had in the front. I decided to pretty much nix out the ones in the back because I felt like they swayed a little bit to more of that only organic shape and sticking with more of the surrealist movement. And because of that, that's why I decided to let go of it. I also thought that Young the Giant was a lot more bold and loud in making a statement in comparison. So that's why I kind of stuck with more of leaning towards the Bauhaus movement and trying to get more of those geometric elements in, compared to just having a lot of flowiness, because I would have had that more in the typeface as well on the back designs compared to the front. But I still wanted to keep that wavy line because I do want to have that abstracted landscape feel from the beaches and from the sand dunes, like all of that, and also the cliffs and the rocks. Going through the list of typefaces, oh my gosh, just like the amount of color palettes that I made, there was a lot. And you know, this is always one of the more difficult parts, to try and narrow things down because there are so many options in this world. I could be counting wrong, but I felt like I went through 20 different typefaces before trying to find the right ambiance and the right tone of typography that would match with the illustration design that I was going for this t-shirt. And the font that I used, I put it in all caps, and I thought that the way that pretty much all of the different typography elements, whether it is from the leg or just from the swash or from one of the arms or even the curve, every single facet of it, I felt like if you put it into the illustration design, it almost becomes an illustration itself. Like, it really seamlessly blends into the rest of the shapes in it. And that's why I decided to go with this one font instead of, trying a variation of instead of trying out other variations that I had on the list, especially those curvy fonts, just because at first I thought I wanted those in with the extra illustrations that I came up with in the backside. That was before I decided to nix them out. And along with adding the band name, I wanted to see if I can add how many years Young the Giant has been around, which is why I have that 12 in the corner. I wanted to see if it would look better with it or without it. But I thought, having the year of how long they've been around would be kind of a nice touch to this illustration design. So in the first two illustration t-shirt designs, I wanted to stick with having the wavy line and also having the geometric elements, all of that. And then that third one, for the next variation, I just wanted to see if I had the 5 blocks that represented each Young the Giant band member, if it would look any good in having the words wrap around. At this point, I've basically come up with the 4 different drafts that I wanted to mess around with, and now we are playing with the excessive amounts of colors that I have. There were a lot of palettes that I created out of, having a retro feel, having a psychedelic feel, having something that is bold and loud and grounded all at the same time. And Young the Giant really loves to play with color a lot, so this is why I kind of had a field day with the amount of different palette swatches I could use from, not only in creation, but actually messing around in the designs that I had. Having a ton of block colors for all these geometric shapes and having lines incorporated in them, yeah, I had so many different options, and just trying to find a color palette not only within the palette's lines that I made, but also messing around of what if I took some colors from the other type of line palette that I made? How would I incorporate that in a way that the colors would blend in well together, and using my color theory skills? As you can see, it was definitely hard trying to narrow down the amount of choices in colors. Because I love messing with colors. I usually try to make more of a restrictive palette for myself, but this time I kind of wanted to use more than 2 to 3 colors, but also making sure I don't use too many colors that it ends up looking too distracting. Just finding that happy medium. But once I finished all of those drafts, colored and black and white, it was time to decide what final drafts I wanted and to kind of place them in a mock-up for the t-shirt illustration, and so that way we can finalize and show what I have decided on ultimately. What do you think of me designing this t-shirt from scratch? Let me know in the comment section below. I had so much fun making this, you know, because obviously I'm a little biased because I did make a design for my favorite band, Young the Giant. I mean, this prompt was also a little bit more chill. You know, I got to listen to their music the entire time I was also making these designs, which was also a nice touch. If you do like this design from scratch video, make sure to let me know by giving this video a thumbs up. Also, I have more content of this. I'm going to put another card up here so then you could click on it and get taken to that playlist. Also, again, if you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe down below and also hit that notification bell. Now, if there is a popular brand that you would like me to redesign for my redesign series, let me know also in the comment section below. If not, if there's something that you would like me to design from scratch, also let me know that because I might make a video on that. So thanks for watching, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye!